What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us. It is your boy Skip, aka Skip and Tosh, here with my twin Zach. Say hello to the people, Zach.
Hello to the people. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zach. Good to be here. Fantastic Four fan. My buddy Skip was. We were talking a little bit yesterday, today, and we was like, "Yeah, let's go on. Let's talk about some Hickman, Jonathan Hickman, Fantastic Four." And I was like, "Yes, this is my time."
This is his time.
So
When will it be my time? My time.
glad
All right.
to glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. By the way, dude. No, it's awesome.
Thank you so much for accepting the invite and joining. I knew eventually one day we would get together, put our magical twin powers together and talk about something. And although there's two of us, we're going to be talking about four people today, and that is the Fantastic Four. Jonathan Hickman did an incredible run. Many people have talked about it. I'm sure a lot of you have already read it, but I'm sure quite a few of you have not read it quite yet. And this is a perfect time to get introduced to it because it is this very run that leads us up to the events that eventually gets to Avengers and New Avengers, also written by Jonathan Hickman. And that takes us through the Infinity event, which
Hmm.
was also written by Jonathan Hickman and already had gotten
Yep.
pieces of it and characters like the Black Order adapted into Infinity War and Endgame in the MCU. But they announced Secret Wars is officially going to be a movie in the MCU, and this Fantastic Four to New Avengers and Avengers to Secret Wars is how we ultimately get to not, well, 2015 Secret Wars, because there was also the
2015. Yeah.
there's
There was
also the
that other
Secret
one
Wars
from
in
the
the
80s that
80s.
was
Yes.
awesome, but I don't think that's the one they're going for.
No, I don't think so. They will definitely use pieces of it because that's what they do. There will be an homage to those fans that have been with Marvel for so long. They're definitely gonna do a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
it's known that MCU loves what Jonathan Hickman does. Marvel loves the big brainy, crazy ideas that Jonathan Hickman has. So it very much is going to
Hmm.
be his version of Secret Wars that it gets adapted the most. So I figure today me and Zach will come. We'll talk about the very first trade. So just the first four issues, right, Zach?
I
It's just
believe it's
four.
for might be
Uh,
5 or 6 actually.
okay, yeah, double
Let me
check
see.
that. But yeah, it'll be the first handful of issues in trade paperback collected edition.
I think it's 5. It says 570 through 574. So I think it's
Okay,
the
so
first
yep,
5 issues.
yeah, first five issues. So
Yep.
yeah, hopefully you've already read it before. If you haven't, we are going to talk spoilers, especially a little bit later on in the video. So you have been warned, but let me tell you that we will talk about some things, and there's not big spoilers in the first trade. There's just some really awesome stuff, but
Hmm.
this book can't be really can't be spoiled for you enough because this entire run has so many different parts and pieces to it that even if someone spoiled something for you, you would be cheating yourself if you didn't flat out just go and read it for yourself. So
Yeah.
allow me and Zach to talk about it. The format will be a little like this. We're just going to talk about, first some of our favorite parts, and then we will jump into um, some pieces that we feel like are really important that really stuck out to us in the story, and then we'll give our conclusions at the end of it, and that'll be that. So hang tight. You'll be with us for about another 20-25 minutes or so. Strap in, and if that sounds like a long time, don't cheat yourself. Just put us on two times speed and still just hang out with us
There you
because
go.
I think we'll be dropping some nuggets in there. But without further ado, yeah, Zach. So like reading through it, this trade, so you haven't read the whole run yet. You've
Not
read
the
a good
entire
portion
run.
of it.
Not not in its entirety. I did start it. When I was at this stage in comics, I was getting floppies, but I was also getting trade paperbacks pretty commonly as well. So yeah, I had like the first trade of this. I had the second trade, and then somewhere along, I don't know what happened. I was kind of in this growing phase as a comic reader. So like even though I started out reading a lot of Fantastic Four books, not just the Hickman stuff, but also like the Marvel Knights Fantastic Four, I was reading like all these different runs. And so I just kind of grew out of it for a season and was like getting really into Justice League and you just trying new things. And so Fantastic Four. Unfortunately, I just dropped it by the wayside. Big error on young Zach's part. Older Zach is now like, why did I drop this? But but yeah, just never finished it. There were, of course, there was like there's a big event that happens later on in this run, huge event that I recall just being completely shocked that it went there, and I jumped back in for a couple of issues. We talked about that one that Nick Dragata did the art for,
Yes.
um, and then I knew what was happening and like directed and how it like correlated with the rest of Marvel and what was going on at the time, but didn't pick up a Fantastic Four issue or title or run or anything for a while after that. But yeah, this one I remember thinking like it was. I like Jonathan Hickman's stuff a lot. I read his Avengers run. I read Infinity. Didn't read the new Avengers. I know that it tied in really closely with Infinity, and then later on going into Secret Wars.
Hmm.
But yeah, Hickman is. Like I was saying a little earlier, I kind of equate him as like the Chris Nolan of Marvel. Like he has like the big brain ideas, and especially with his Avengers run, it felt like watching a Chris Nolan movie where like I would have to go read through it again, maybe 3 times just to make sure I gleaned everything I could from it.
Right.
He certainly does do like the big epic cosmic, sci-fi really well, which I think is great for Fantastic Four because that's where I think a lot of where they shine is in like the science and exploration type of arena, versus crime fighters like Spider-Man or Daredevil, as great as they are. So, and I just also love the fact, he gets the family dynamic, and you see that in the trade in this trade, just hits the ground running with just the family dynamic
Hmm.
between every, whether it's the relationship, between Reed and Sue, or the friendship between Ben and Johnny, just and the kids too, Franklin and Val are, they're all just written so well. It's really really awesome. I really can't get enough of it.
Absolutely. Now I feel the same way. Like the characterization that an approach that Hickman took was really good. Like very much family focused, family oriented. Um, but he and then the individuals, like their voices, the dynamic between Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm was awesome. Even like the dynamic between Ben Grimm and Reed, is really good. Reed
Mhm.
sometimes gets trapped in his head with all of these thoughts, these scientific thoughts, and a very mathematical and methodical way of about going through life. And sometimes you just need that simpleton, that simple wisdom, from Ben Grimm, just being like, even like in issue one, when Sue and Reed are having some troubles, and he like snatches the paper out of his hands, and he's like, "Hey, stretchy boss man, keep in mind, whenever the wife's not happy, we all suffer." And it's just like,
Right, yeah,
it's just
that's
basically
right,
like,
yeah.
"Hey, dummy, make sure Sue's good. Like, what the heck are you doing? Get out of that
Hmm.
lab. Like, take her out on a date. You smart idiot. I just loved things like that. So Hickman did a great job, and I like how he balanced it with having those moments, but like you said, still incorporating like the big brainy scientific ideas. Very much making this a sci-fi comic. Just even in this first run, like we get the Fantastic Four, or at least part of the family, going into other worlds, and getting themselves stuck in romps. Vacations gone wrong, and the next thing you know, like the Fantastic Four has to do Fantastic Four things, and I really appreciated like the dynamics and the pace and the way Hickman took things up and took things down, and made things introspective, but then made them like massive and widened the scope on us. It was really 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 cool. So I really appreciate it. I think that's part of the reason why people regard it as such a good run, is just because it was heartfelt, but it was also well
Hmm.
balanced with like these mega, big, action packed fights and events, and mind bending and melding concepts that he throws in at you. from beginning to end. He kind of kept it that way. But now that we've kind of
Yeah.
talked about like our initial thoughts and stuff like that, we're gonna get a little more spoilery here, and we're gonna keep it to just the first trade. So it's not gonna be a bunch of stuff that happens, like four volumes down the line. But like feel free to throw them out, and I'll grab some of those images up here. What were some of your favorite parts that happened? Some of your favorite scenes.
So, I mean, just thinking right off the bat, a lot of my favorite scenes have to do with Reed, which is kind of weird for me. Reed has never been one of my favorite. Like, ask me my favorite superheroes. Reed doesn't really make the top of the list.
Right.
But like, there's these really great moments, especially like the flashbacks where like
Hmm.
it's him
Yeah.
and his dad's like giving him all of this advice, this fatherly advice, and I think it's like the very last flashback where it's like Reed's a little bit older, he's working on his car. I want to say it might be in like the third issue.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, he's like, telling him, there's these two panels, one's on top of the other, where like he points at his head and he's like, "What's in here?" I'm paraphrasing. "What's in here doesn't mean anything without what's in here," pointing at his heart.
Right.
And because at this point in the story, there's a group called the Council of Reeds. It's all these Reed Richards from the multiverse, from all these different universes, and they offer Reed, membership because they think he's ready to join their multiversal council where they solve all these big brainy emergencies. Um, but in order to do that, they tell him it's gonna cost him like everything. Like he's gonna put all of his time into this council. He's not gonna have time left for Sue or Johnny or his kids or anyone. And so there's this flashback. Yeah, that's it right there.
Hmm.
Where like his dad is talking to him is like, "Hey, remember what's up here is great, but it doesn't mean anything without what's in your heart."
Yeah.
And then he's basically like, "Be a better dad than I was. Be a better husband than I was. Be a better father." It's just that right there. Looking at this trait is probably the bit that stands out to me the most. I'm a big sucker for like positive father roles in entertainment.
Yes.
Like I love the Ant-Man movies mainly because of that. Uh,
Yeah.
so that just really got me. And then there's like, because it's Reed remembering this, and so when it flashes back to Reed in like the modern, like in the present tense, it's he and Sue, they've kind of been going through this little spat, and Sue's patiently been like waiting outside of Reed's thinking room. And so I love how the issue ends with him just like opening the door and going back to Sue. It's just like I love that stuff. Again, it's that family, that heartfelt, that relationships. I just loved it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that was definitely one of my favorites too. Reed, is tasking himself with trying to solve everything. Like how do I solve everything? His
Hmm.
greatest superpower is not his stretchy ability. His greatest superpower is his intellect. He's the smartest man in the world. So
Yeah.
his biggest enemy in this comic really was need. It was an equation. How do I address the needs? How do I use my strongest ability, my mind, to meet the needs of the people on this planet, that look up to, the people that have such abilities. If it's Spider-Man, he can swing in and save you. If it's Cap, he can sling that shield and come up with a combat plan to take down, this group of henchmen. But for
Hmm.
Reed, as much as he can stretch himself, the thing that he can stretch the most is his intellect. So I
Yeah.
really like how he throws himself into this, and he finds, what he felt like could be a justifiable reason to group
Hmm.
with these other people and pull himself away from his family to address this. But as things start to hit the fan, and he realizes, as it said in that one part, he was like, "Read, the cost of solving everything is everything. You have to
Right.
give it all up." And he was like, wrong answer.
It's like I'm out. I'm out.
Yep. He's like, bruh, I got Val, I got Johnny to think about, Ben, Franklin. Like,
Yep.
and Sue, like, I'm not giving that up. This is not the Fantastic One. This is the
Yep.
Fantastic Six, but we go by the Fantastic Four, you know?
And it was in that moment we were reminded that Reed actually is the smartest guy in the room because he noped out of there.
Exactly. He gained his points back right there. He was like,
Yep.
happy wife, happy life. No wife, no life. No thanks,
There
bro.
you go.
You
That's it.
guys, let me know when you figure out everything. I'm gonna go figure out Sue. Speaking
There
of
you go.
which, I'm gonna say, like, on that note, one of my favorite parts, which is in issue number 2. Yep, jump back over to that. It was also same thing. Like, I love seeing, like, family, and like, number one, I enjoy seeing, like, genuine positivity and heartfelt moments, but especially when it's between, loved ones, family, mother and daughter, sister and brother, brother and brother, husband and
Yeah.
wife. Very, very, very great. But I really like this scene because he had been spending too much time in his lab. He'd be spending it away. She made a simple request. She was just like, "Hey, I know you've been spending a lot of time in the lab. I'm gonna go ahead into bed, but all I ask is that you don't fall asleep in the lab tonight."
Hmm.
Which was a really, really kind and um, diplomatic and smart way of saying, like, you know, like, you can stay up, but make sure you come back to bed with me. You know,
Right.
like you can do that. I know that's important, but just show me that I'm the most important thing.
Hmm.
And and he's like, "Yep," and she's like, he's not coming back to that. She
You're
walks
right.
off. Hey, but like, I like that she stood her ground. She woke up the next
Yeah.
morning and she was like, "Everybody, can you leave? Me and Reed need to talk."
Hmm.
And she was letting him know, like, "Hey, this is what's happening." And he tried to cut her off and answer it for her. And that's the thing
Yep.
that you do not do to the wife.
No. Reed
You let them
lost
talk.
his smart points in that moment.
And Ben just talked to him. Ben had just talked to him and snatched the
Hmm.
paper out of his hand. Ben basically primed him. He basically gave him the keys to success. Give me the newspaper, no distractions right now, make the wife happy, and we're gonna take the kids out for a little. Me and Uncle Johnny are gonna take the kids out right now. She needs to talk to you. Fix this, boss man. And he almost screwed it up again, trying to be too smart and try to, like, solve this equation before her. But that's the thing. Sue is not an equation.
Right.
Sue is your wife. Sue is your love. You don't solve the equation. You address the need. You touch her heart and you let her know she's still priority. So he was fumbling in the bag after Ben set him up for success. Reed was still losing points, fumbling the bag, but he got slick real quick because she was pissed at him for him, like, answering for her, and he was like, "Look, hon, I'm not gonna apologize for me being basically the smartest man alive. Like, so many people come to me when they can't find the answer to things." He said, "But of all the things that I've studied, it's you that and all the things that I'm an expert in, it's you that I've studied the most."
That was slick. I did read that. I was like, okay, okay. He's got some charm on him.
He's got a little bit of
He can
charm, you know.
he can pull it out. Yeah, he can pull it out when he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like that. That was a good scene.
That was really
So
good. Yeah,
yeah,
she was a little, she blushed. She had to put the hand on the face. I was like, "Okay, look at you, little silver-tongued devil over there, Reed Richards." So that was definitely a good one. What's another one that you had that really kind of spoke to you?
Another one I had that I really liked. It's I think it's probably the very last issue. It was just kind of it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like a big plot driving moment, but it was
Mm-hmm.
just like this fun moment where it's like Franklin's birthday. They'd been kind of leading up to it, dropping little hints that Franklin was about to have a birthday, and so
Yes.
it gets to that whole birthday scene, and
Mm-hmm.
like Val leads him into the room. He's like, "There's no one in here," of course, because his mom's hiding everybody because she can
Yeah.
turn people invisible, and just
Yeah.
like that whole surprise part. It's just fun to see that kind of stuff. He really wanted Spider-Man to be there, even though Johnny, was like, "You don't want Spider-Man," but he just shows up, and it's just all this really there's fun stuff, and like they're just kids being kids, and they want to have fun and they want to just hang out. There was also this moment, and it kind of ties back to the very first issue actually. But there's this moment Sue is offering a slice of cake to this boy. I think his name was Bentley,
Hmm.
uh, but he calls himself 32
Yeah.
because if you go to the first issue features the Wizard is the
Yes.
villain. The whole run starts with the Fantastic Four fighting the Wizard, which I remember thinking, well, that's a weird choice. I always think of the Wizard as just like one of the weirder C-list villains, but they actually made him actually relevant in this in a really really cool way.
Yep.
Um, what the Wizard did is he made a whole bunch of clones of himself, and
Yes.
he didn't give them any names. He just called them numbers. So there's 1, 2, all the way up to 32. And so when Sue was offering cake to this little kid Bentley, he goes, "Oh, Mo, my name is number 32 because you had to be special to get a name, and I wasn't deemed special by my dad."
Right.
So Sue still calls him Bentley. Of course, she does. I mean, Sue's a mom. She's the heart of the team. As you know, I've always thought she's the glue, the emotional glue. So she's of course going to be nice, and she continues to call him Bentley and get. It's just this really touching moment. And actually, the more I'm thinking about it, this, kind of hit me just a few minutes ago. The stuff with Reed, where it's like, okay, when you were saying like the cost of everything is everything, he decides he needs to be with his family.
Right.
It's almost a direct contrast to the Wizard in that first issue and how he used his intellect. It's like he just gave up all personal attachment rather than have a family of his own. He just made his own. He didn't even give them names. He just
Right.
completely detached himself. And so
Hmm.
Reed, in contrast to that, you see how Reed kind of merges his heart with his brain, how he values his family and his little local, his support system. So, but yeah, the whole birthday scene is really fun. There's also this fun little line where Reed and Sue, obviously they're good at this point, and they're kind of, they're over their little spat. And Reed's like, for someone whose son just turned, I think it was like 7 or 8, for somebody whose kid just turned this age, you look really good. And Sue's like, don't do it. So it's just it's fun. Reed can be like really witty and charming when he wants to be, which I really like. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I'm there with you. Like I'm going to show a part that leads up to a part because you were right. Like if we go back to, yeah, it was issue number 2. So let me jump over there. We're setting up the birthday party. We know that it's Franklin's birthday is coming up, and I just love like
Jo-
Franklin. Go ahead, go for it.
Johnny just looks like he had a water balloon. Like it looks like his hair just like got it's like a rain cloud just poured on him after Franklin's like, I want Spider-Man there.
Yep, and he was like, "What do you want with that guy for? If you want a super cool hero at your party, someone that says Franklin Richards, living the dream, then you're gonna want the Human Torch, kid. I'm sure I can squeeze it in." Like he's just being such a jerk. But dude, I just love how like Franklin just turns and he's like, "Mom, I'd really like Spider Man." And then he says that and he's like, "I'm gonna tell you something that no one else will tell you, Franklin. Spider Man sucks."
Spider-Man sucks.
Just you suck face.
I love that part right there. That was one of the parts that made me laugh out loud. I was like, Frank, now you can make universes. You're this really powerful kid, but the best you can say is you suck, suck. And
You
then the funny
suck
part is he gets
face.
in trouble with his mom. He's just like sitting right there, and she
Yep.
just was like scolding him and Johnny at the same
Exactly. Yep.
time.
She
I
just
love
has to
it.
give them both the business. But like all of that, just to go back to the birthday party, and he
Hmm.
wasn't sure if he was going to be able to, if Spider-Man was gonna show up or not, especially like, he had gotten in a little bit of trouble or whatever. But man, oh man, like after everybody appears, like you said, but the next best thing was um when when they were looking around and being like in that like no frills Spider-Man came out, and they were
Yeah,
like,
right.
"That's not Spider-Man." And he's like, "Huh, that's funny because I know I saw him around here somewhere." And he turns, and then Peter's hanging from his back. I was like, "Oh man, that is like Hickman thought of that. That is like such a heartwarming moment, like to set up like the fake Spider-Man and then being like, "What I thought of summer," and he turns around and he's on his back and they're like, "There's Spider-Man." I was like, man, that felt like I was at an actual birthday party with
Yep.
kids. Like that's how they act. That's how they would
That
respond, you know?
is. That's it. That is how they act. It's awesome. Just the genuine feeling that you get from reading that. It just because Hickman's probably been at a birthday. He knows how kids react when stuff like that is happening. So yeah, I just it just feels so organically written.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. So let's do one more of like your favorite moments before we get into like important moments. So what was one other of your favorite moments that jumped out at you?
Ooh, one other favorite moment.
Hmm.
Um. Oh, that's a good one. Let me see. What other one favorite moment do I have in here?
While you're looking it up, I know what mine
Yeah,
is, so I'm gonna go
go
ahead and
for it. Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna go for mine. So
Okay.
mine was another like the comedy in this like is crazy and is like heartfelt and is like it's big brained as this gets
Mhm.
like some of my favorite parts were just like the comedy parts. So let's see, we're on page 19. It was so Ben and Johnny were planning the vacation that they were going to go on because there'd been a lot going on and they needed to get away just for a few days, and Sue said she was fine with it. So
Mhm.
Johnny gives Ben three envelopes, and he's like, "All right, you got three choices, and each of these is an all expenses paid vacation, each one to a luxurious, remote, and secluded location. It's time to choose contestant number one. What's it going to be?" And Ben, he's grumpy. He's like, I don't even want to do this, man. Like, what the heck? And he's just like, you can't like just pick. And he picks. So he's like, winner, winner, chicken dinner. 3 days, 2 nights on a beautiful new world. With the superhero celebrity Johnny Storm. And what's this? Prize included a fruit basket and a selection of scented oils and other fine bath products. Very nice, Benny. Well done. He's just hamming it up. And as we go through
Yep.
everything else, like we find out that, like Ben finally reads it and he looks at all the other envelopes and he's like, "Hey, wait, these were all the same. These were all the same." And he's like,
It
he
was the
couldn't.
same one.
It was the same one in all three. Like he did not give him a choice at all. Johnny totally lied. He picked the same. He picked what he wanted to do and try to make Ben think that he was actually choosing.
Johnny really wanted to go to New World,
He
basically.
really wanted to go. Like
But he
he was not
wanted
going to
Ben
take
to
no for an
he wanted
answer.
Ben to think it was him that got them there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that was another one of
I
my
love
favorite
it.
parts. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so I'm gonna go with a comedy bit kind of for my
Okay.
last favorite one. It's a little bit later on. Johnny and Ben are actually getting ready. They're in they're getting ready to take off to New World,
Okay.
and Franklin and Val, they're getting ready to tag along and
Oh
stow away.
yes.
So
Uh-huh.
there's like this whole scene. I think it's like the third issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like they're getting ready, they're flying off in the Fantastic car, and Val and Franklin, they're sitting down, and Val's like, well, what is it she said? And Franklin's like, Mom, can we please go on vacation with Uncle Ben and Uncle Johnny? And Val's like, no, absolutely not, she said. And then
She
there's
actually
like
was
this
mocking her
narration.
mom.
And
Yeah.
so I'm just hearing this, like, and I'm reading this, I'm thinking that they're speaking in like this smug attitude, this like, maybe next time when you're older, she said.
Right.
And Val's like, and what did we think of that, Franklin? And Franklin's like, doesn't seem very fair. I mean, I am almost a year older. So it's like, it's these kids trying to, because they're already trying to rationalize in
Right. Yeah,
case
they're
they get
using
caught.
kid logic. Yeah.
And so it's like, I love these kind of like kid, like, it's almost like Home Alone, right? The kid
Right.
hijinks that it's awesome. It's so much fun.
Hmm.
And yeah, they end up tagging along and stowing away with Ben and Johnny, and of course when they get to New World, hijinks ensue.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a ton of fun to read. Just the attitude, the smugness they had as they were getting ready to do this thing that they knew they could get in trouble for. It was just a lot of fun.
That was awesome. That was definitely awesome. So many good moments like within there that just man, like, and we're not even talking about like the crazy big stuff that people normally talk about in the run. And I think, and I'm
Hmm.
glad we're talking about these moments because I feel like these moments get overshadowed, especially
Oh
as we
yeah.
go deeper. And Jonathan Hickman comes up with this, just this these mind imploding concepts and events that happen. What really like grounded it all was these character moments between all the different characters, from the kids to Sue and Reed and Johnny and Ben, and then
Hmm.
Spider-Man coming in the mix, and like the birthday parties, and like you said, Sue being the heart. And even though that clone of the wizard didn't have a name because of, he was basically abused. The wizard
Hmm.
was not properly loving him, so
Yeah.
he took all those teachings from his environment onto himself. And Sue, in the most delicate way, is like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start breaking all that brainwashing and abuse. Like, I'm gonna give you a name. I'm gonna give you significance. You're gonna get a
Yep.
piece of cake, Bentley. Like, all of those things are really what balances exactly what Reed's dad said. It takes it away from being just a heady comic series and really balances both the head and the heart so well.
Exactly. And it's also, it's like you said, it's the little moments, or maybe it's like the little comical bits or whatever emphasizes the relation. It's all that little stuff that makes, whenever the big stuff does kick in,
Hmm.
it gives you that much more of an emotional resonance, I guess, to what's going on, because you've been through these little moments. You know how these characters react and behave around each other. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's great. Yeah, it's really just great writing by Hickman on this.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go. If it's okay with you, I'm gonna go into one of my big moments,
Okay.
and it was, get over to it. It was kind of right out the gate. Issue number 20. I mean, issue number one of the run, not the actual issue number. Keep that in mind,
Not the
y'all.
not the Stan and Jack. Although I do like in the trade when they open it up, like on the big, when you open the trade on the big title page, it says Fantastic Four. It says the name of the story, and then it actually credits Stan and Jack. The
Yes,
original creator. I did like that. I thought that was a nice little touch.
I loved that. I loved that they paid homage right out the gate. Let's
Yeah.
see. So hold on, wait. Yeah, is I feel like, hold on. Is this a little bit before it? Okay, yeah. Number 23. Here we go. Okay, I think it's a slightly different page on this one. Boom, 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 boom. The bridge. Where be the bridge? Yep. Well, apparently it's just absent from from the Kindle version. They're just
Oh.
that's what. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah. I guess that's what we get for being in beta. Yeah, page 23. That should have never changed Comixology. So
Yep.
so we're going to the bridge. So the bridge like appeared and became very popular in the small mini series of Fantastic Four that Hickman also wrote. That was just part of the Dark Reign event in Marvel. It was a Dark Reign Marvel event occurring um, right after right after Secret
Was that
Invasion, right?
Secret Invasion? Yeah.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
after Secret Invasion. Yeah.
yeah. So we go back to the bridge, and that was the thing that like Reed and Doctor Strange got a thing going on where it's like the secret knowledge and the secret science that you should not touch. They just can't help themselves. They have to touch the fire and
Yep.
see if they can tame it. So he's walking back to the bridge, the thing that got him in trouble, last time around in the last series, and he goes through it and he starts talking to these people because he's trying to solve everything, and they're letting him know like, hey, come with us, and you can do whatever you want, but what do you want to do? And he was like, how do I solve everything? And then the people aren't like silhouettes anymore, and you see that there's a bunch of other Reeds that are talking
Hmm.
to him. So he's consorting with other Reeds, which ultimately leads to him going and meeting the rest of the Council of Reeds, which was crazy. And then you got three of them that got Infinity Gauntlets, and I'm just like, okay, Jonathan Hickman, this is issue number one, bro. Like, you have no chill. You're just gonna introduce a Council of Reeds, three Reeds with Infinity Gauntlets right out the gate. What
Yep.
is one? What is wrong with you? Two, don't fix it and give me more. You know?
It's like I'm not gonna just show you the deep end of the pool. I'm gonna just push you in.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to show you the deep. I'm not going to show you the deep end of the pool. I'm just going to push you into the ocean. It's just like, okay,
Pretty
thanks,
much.
Jonathan
And
Hickman.
this was back too when you got to remember this was back when this came out. Multiverses and alternate universes that hadn't been like it is now, where it's just
Yeah,
like common and it's like in every comic book. This was still pretty fairly new, or
yeah.
it was just starting to get to that point.
Absolutely.
So,
It
but
hadn't gotten zany like this. Like it
yeah,
would come and it would go and we would have, but like Marvel was coming out of that period of like having more grounded stories and stuff like that. They hadn't been super into like the deep mind bending parts of like super duper deep science fiction. So and like I said, Hickman has no chill. Like he just would not calm down. He was like, "Oh, y'all gave me the Fantastic Four? Okay, cool. Council of Reeds, gajillion multiverses in issue one." I was like, where do you even go from here? Like, what?
for
So
real,
anyway,
yeah, it's ambitious to say the least, for
super
sure.
super ambitious, and as much as the multiverse has been introduced, and people seem to not be able to get enough. Every MCU thing that comes out, it's like people
Yep.
don't even care about the plot or that it's like a solo story for like the hero. They're just like, okay, so where's the multiverse? Okay, but where's the
Right.
multiverse? Okay, there's
Where's
only
the
one
alternate
version.
versions of all these characters? Like,
Yeah, it's like You guys need to read some Jonathan Hickman because he's the one that won't calm down. Okay, go. But
yeah.
anyway, so that was my first one. That was just like right out the gate. He just blew my mind to bits, and I was just like, It's all downhill from here. This is as good as it can get. But what about you, Twin? What was one that popped out for you?
So moving on, it goes. I think it's in like the very next issue where
Mm-hmm.
he's like, he's consulting with the three reeds that are in charge, basically. At
Mm-hmm.
this point, he's told Sue he's just like, he just needs a week to get everything sorted, and so
Mm-hmm.
he goes on these different trips with these three different reeds. So
Mm-hmm.
like the reed in the power suit shows him like, hey, listen, with all this power, we can take whole planets and terraform them and give them food, because at the end of the day, that's what Reed is, or I guess that's how he sees himself, as somebody who uses his brain to help humanity.
Yeah.
And so, there's like, okay, well, this is the good side of being on the Council of Reeds.
Mm-hmm.
Then it shows him with one of the other reeds, and it's like the necessary evil side. Like nobody wants to think about this side, but it's something they have to do. Where it shows uh, one of the reeds is basically he's lobotomizing these Doctor Dooms from
Yeah.
different universes, because he's like Doom in any reality can never be satisfied. He's never able to be put under control. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to lobotomize him, and there's like this whole cave where there's just like a whole crowd of lobotomized Dooms.
Right.
And then so it's like he's going through, so it's like, okay, here's the good part, here's the bad part, and then they show him with the third read, and he's showing him, hey, listen, we're able to do like they do surgery on a star, like a dying sun or something, where they're pulling out dark matter. It's
Right.
like, and this is what kind of makes it all worth it. So it's like, okay, here's the good part of the job, here's the bad part, this is the part that makes it worth it. You're saving millions and billions of lives. uh, it also kind of reminded me of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, where there's like
Mm-hmm.
the little sun and they're working on it. But
The power of the sun
the
in the
sun,
palm of my hands. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool, because I mean, it's Reed seeing, okay, well, I know if I go with these guys, here's the good, here's the bad that I might have to do, here's the awesome stuff that's involved. I found it weird. Of course, Hickman brings it in a few pages later, but
Mm-hmm.
like his family and like his own home life and what's going on at home doesn't really get brought up. It comes up later on, where we kind of touched on it earlier, where they tell him, look, the cost of solving everything and fixing everything is everything.
Yeah.
And and not to harp on that too much longer, I know we spent a good amount of time on it, but it's
No,
like,
it's
yeah, it's in that
important.
you
Mm-hmm.
see about all these other reads, none of them are talking about, like, there's never any mention of Sue or their versions of the Fantastic Four or their family. It's all just about them and what they can do.
Yeah.
And so when Reed kind of snaps out of that and he realizes, I was like, hey, no, I still love my wife, I love my family, and he gets out of there. I thought that was really great. all the Council of and it's funny because whenever you talk multiverse stuff, my brain almost takes one step out the door, just
Hmm.
because it's everywhere these days.
Right.
But this was actually, I mean, this was really really good storytelling. It kept me engaged as I was reading it. I didn't feel like I needed to like just snooze a little bit with the multiverse stuff. It was really really thought provoking too, just like seeing how all the reads would work together and everything. So I thought it was really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the good. Again, that goes back to the balancing. Like, if you're going to introduce these heady, you know, magnanimous concepts, you have to ground it in some way so that way people follow you. We may think, in those spaces as well, but we have our feet on the ground here. So in order to take us with you, you have to root it in something that we can, connect ourselves to where we're at, where we're reading, where we're sitting. So the fact that as far out as he went, it always, and as much as he wanted to do, it was
Hmm.
always, well, what's the cost? I want to do this, and and even that, like, that desire went back to his dad, with his dad telling him, like, you will change the world, you will do this. So he's trying to
Yeah.
balance even that, like the mission that he felt like he was given and the purpose that he felt like his father kind of gave him, balanced with, yeah, you have a world that you want to maintain and improve, but you have
Hmm.
this smaller world that is for you, should be like, really is your entire world, which is your
Right.
family. How do you balance those two things? I think, especially recently, when we have it being that concept, that kind of gives us some of our best stories. Not to jump
Hmm.
on a DC front, but like, that's part of the reason why everyone loved that Tomasi well, that Peter J. Tomasi run of Superman, is because that's what it
Yeah.
was. He was balancing, being a husband and a father, but also being like the shining beacon of hope in the world's strongest, defense mechanism for anything,
Yeah.
whether it's street level crime or some, extraterrestrial force.
Definitely. I feel like it speaks to a lot of readers, especially because I mean that's the constant balance that even in reality it's like, okay, balancing work and family life.
Hmm.
It's just like I think it's got just like this mass appeal. And yeah, like you said, Gleason, Superman, shoot, Spider-Man for decades. That was like, how does he balance life
Right.
with, married life versus superhero life? And with Reed, I remember various other runs that I've kind of read through, and that was always kind of this ongoing thing with Reed, is like, okay, his brain doesn't turn off; he's always thinking, but how does he come to a balance between the two? And this, I felt, did a really really good job of setting that up through these first 4 or 5 issues.
Absolutely. Completely agree. All right, so another one that was big to me, which not as important. I can't say it wasn't important to the plot, because this version of Reed does play a really big role later on in the plot, and even what he asks someone to do, like asking them to sacrifice themselves. But effectively, what happened is, um, the Reed that, like, showed Earth 616 Reed, like, that planet that was having an issue, and how they found like the chaotic matter and cupped it and then pulled it out of it, and they saved like billions of lives on that planet.
Hmm.
Back in his universe, he let some foe like get into his mind and pull out the information that there is a council of reeds, where they are and how to get there. And sure enough, the
Hmm.
invaders came as he was apologizing to everyone after the alert started to go off, and it was a bunch of celestials. So celestials are just like raining down, what is it, fire and brimstone, like on the
Yeah.
Council of Reeds HQ. And one of the Reeds that has one of the Infinity Gauntlets, he talks to another Reed that I guess his ability is to be able to either take you or bring some of your dimension to wherever you are.
Hmm.
And he's like, hey, I need you to, like, access my dimension for me, because my Infinity Gauntlet doesn't work in this in between space that we're at. But if I'm accessing part of my dimension, my realm, then my Infinity Gauntlet will work. And he was like, yeah, but if I do that, you're gonna burn me out, like I won't make it. And he was like, I know, but if we don't do this, none of us might make it. And he was like, all right, like I'll do it. It was one heck of a ride for all of us. And he just opens himself up, and that reed sticks his ungauntleted hand into his realm, and then use his infinity gauntlet activates, and he just blasts the hell out of a celestial. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? This is amazing. Like, I nerded out, man. I
Yeah,
had a nerdgasm. I couldn't help it. That was incredible.
that was awesome. Yeah, and I do love that they put in that little, not loophole, I guess, but that structure. It's like, okay, because you have 3 reads with Infinity Gauntlets, why don't they all just use Infinity? I think Reed even asks, why don't you just use your Infinity Gauntlets and just snap away all the problems?
Right.
And they say, well, if you're not in the dimension that that gauntlet is from, it's powerless. So
Yep.
I do like that little bit of structure they threw in there. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to set
Yeah.
up boundaries, and I'm not going to act like it's the easiest thing to follow all of them. And it's a lot easier for us to read them and find the chinks in the armor. But when
Yep.
people at least attempt to set them up and try, then we get like we can get cool things, and that's what I like about Hickman. And he tried to do it in X-Men, but we all know how that goes. But he set up things like, I know people always talk. I'm not gonna make this an X-Men thing, but people always talk about like, well, it cheapens it because they can't die. Like he set it up so they can always come back. And I was
Mhm.
like, we look at that from the story perspective and how cheap death is in comics, but Hickman is smart. He used an accelerationist mentality with it. He was like, okay, death has been cheapened. Now none of them can die. That was a restraint for the writers. Now you guys can't kill someone off and make it be mean something so easily. You don't have that easy way to get to people. You have to think harder on how to make an impactful moment. So that limitation wasn't to just make it, oh, no one dies, not a big deal. It was, and even then, he still made the death moments impactful somehow because he's Jonathan Hickman. But it was for the
Yeah.
writers. He was like, you guys are not gonna, like, the X Men just got killed off by the millions, by the hundreds of thousands, no more mutants. Like, yes, it has been cheapened. So we're going to take that off the
Yeah.
table. Let's set up a structure. They can't die anymore. Now, how are you going to make things more tense with me taking that away, writers? And then, of course, they
That's something
chased
I
Jonathan Hickman
never.
off.
Well, of course, yeah, because as soon as that's done, Hickman pretty much he leaves the title and
Yeah,
they
they
drop the
chased him
ball. But
away.
that I
Yeah.
never thought about that actually. That's actually really, yeah, that's a neat way of looking at it because I mean that's something that happens every year. An X-Men died basically for the longest time, and yeah, superhero deaths in general are cheapened. So that is cool that he did that. Actually, I never looked at it that way. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's do one more each, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. Something I thought that was neat. It's at the very end of the trade. It's
Mm-hmm.
after Franklin's birthday. Everything's going on, and you see there's like a quiet hallway. There's nothing going on, and then like this man emerges from a wormhole, or like he time travels back, and of course the Baxter Building goes on alert. The Fantastic Four show up. Sue puts up an invisible wall to shield them from this intruder, but Franklin is on the other side with this intruder guy who, whispers some words to him and then seems to knock him out. And then he goes and he finds Val in her room. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all the setting up for future stories, for future plots. And, he's kind of like spoiling the future for her, telling her, all this important information. Very end of it all, uh, because it's Franklin's birthday. At the very beginning of the issue, when she's leading Franklin to the surprise party, she's like, "Oh, happy birthday, uh, retard!"
Yeah.
Being that little sister. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that would cut the mustard these days, but
Right.
um, but as this stranger that's not named at all, nobody knows who he is. As he's getting ready to depart, Val's like, "Can I say something?" She's like, he's like, yeah. She says, happy birthday, retard, to him again. So now we know that this is a grown-up Franklin Richards from the future
Yeah.
that's come back in time, pulling like a Terminator, kind of trying to set some things
Mm-hmm.
in motion. Uh, so that was really cool because again, it's that brother-sister relationship to where she knows him so well that she's able to deduct and glean who this older guy is. But then also we find out that older Franklin has kind of, I guess, reminded younger Franklin of what he's capable of. Um, because I forget if Franklin was if he was still creating universes and he had all this big cosmic power like he did in the
Nah,
90s.
he had stopped. It had been taken away from him. So at this point in time, he didn't
Okay.
have it anymore. Hmm.
So yeah, we see at the very end of the very last panel, we see that grown-up Franklin has reminded young Franklin what he's capable of. So it's like him under the sheets, under his bed, and he's playing with like this little cluster of stars that he's created, which was really cool, I thought.
Yes, that was awesome. Yeah, that part. Yeah, when he's saying rest and remember, like because he knocked him out, and that's what people were like tripping out on. They were like, "What the heck?" Like Franklin got like he just knocked out Franklin. Like we gotta go whoop this guy. And then they couldn't see what he was telling them, and that's what he was telling. Like we flash back to see he was saying rest and remember who you are. And then yep, he
Yep.
was underneath his bed creating like a baby universe. So like
And
his godlike
it's
powers have returned.
it's also just a fun little couple of panels too, because it's like as a kid, like I didn't do this a lot, but there were a few books. Like when it was nighttime, I would like get a flashlight out and
Yeah.
read a book under the covers. So it kind of invokes that also that kind of like childlike innocence and imagination and everything. So that
Hmm.
adds a nice little flavor to the scene as well.
Yep, absolutely. You pretty much touched on one of mine, so I will go back over to it real quick. Oh, whoops, that is not what I meant to do. Sorry about that. And my yeah, we know. Thanks, Kindle.
Thanks,
Um,
Kendall.
Thanks so much, Kindle. Okay, so this is my part right here where he is
Okay.
breaking down that stuff, and they're kind of it's funny because they're showing so much stuff in the background, but it's like crayon style. Like it's some of the different reads, and you get Namor back there and all that other stuff. But he shows Doom, and he's telling her like, he says, "Listen closely, because each word I say was chosen carefully, and it is just for you, Val. No one else can know this. There will be a war between the four cities. The dead must not be forgotten. The future man must return to save the past," which is what he was doing right there. And he said, "And all hope lies in doom." That was one of the biggest seeds that led all the way through to Secret Wars. All hope lies in doom. And it's so funny because there was such a great scene later with Val and Doom. Eventually, like later, I'll just say that. And it was perfect because it was almost like Jonathan Hickman putting like a prophecy into place within the book. Like he was planting a seed, but through Franklin, it's this prophetic thing. And I first thought that it just paid off in the book. I didn't realize how important it was to go all the way through Avengers and New Avengers, and then to get to Secret Wars and be like, oh my god, like all hope lies in Doom. Like, and at this time in the book, Doom was not as powerful as he normally was. It's funny that they were lobotomizing him because he had just went through some trauma. I can't remember what it was, but it was almost like, effectively, it was like the comic book version of a stroke. And he was not able to access all of his intelligence. He wasn't able to like as bright as he is, like almost as bright as Reed Richards. He didn't have all of his faculties about him. And yet and still in those moments like where it looked like he was weak and in a shell of his former self, still mighty. I mean, he was still very much Victor Von Doom, but he wasn't peak Doom. Man,
Right.
it's just crazy how so many things like developed until later on. Um, he ended up being something that nobody wanted any parts. I'll say that. But with that, yeah, we'll kind of conclude. So yeah, just going back over it one more time, um, and you have read up to a point, but like, how is it feeling this time around? Reading it this time around, like, does it still hold up? Do you feel like comics have kind of gotten past this is dated, or you still feel like this is pretty substantial work?
I still feel like it holds up. I'm also looking at it through, so like I'm at the stage of my life that I'm in now as I read this. A lot of the scenes hit a lot more close to home. I feel like
Hmm.
because last time I read this, like I wasn't married. I don't think I was even dating the last time I read this.
Hmm.
It was like college kid Zach, or
Yeah.
just out of college kid Zach. And so yeah, reading this now, having been married and having those tight family relationships in real life, reading these scenes, especially between like Reed and Sue, or like I said, the flashbacks between Reed and his dad also. It actually hits a lot harder, a lot closer to home. Actually, it's a
Hmm.
lot more heartfelt, I think, than I remember it being the first time around.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's still a very worthwhile read. I don't know if I mean, obviously, Fantastic Four. There's a lot of great runs. I mean, you could even go back to Stan and Jack. You can go back to John Byrne if you
Yeah.
wanted to go that far back. I know when I first got into comics, I was almost a bit of a snob when it came to like the Bronze Age, Silver Age stuff. I just wanted like modern stuff. That old art style didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're at that point in your comic reading life, don't worry. You'll get probably to the the point where you like the back issues.
Hmm.
But I mean, this was just a really great run back then, and I really enjoy it now. Like I said, it takes the multiverse stuff, which normally it's been used so often now that it just kind of I see it as par for the course. It's in every superhero movie. It gets brought up
Right.
nowadays. It's almost like it's an old hat trick.
Yeah.
But this story still uses it, and I think a really refreshing and intelligent way um, that makes it definitely a worthwhile read. And like we said at the beginning, it balances the big sci-fi, brainy, intelligent plot and combines it with like the family dynamic, the relationships. It's the brain and the heart basically, and Hickman just melds them both together. Um, and I don't even think that uh, either of us has mentioned, but the art by Bill Eaglesham
Oh my
does the first couple
gosh.
of issues
Yeah.
nails it. I love Dale Eaglestrom's art.
Me too.
He did art on Jeff Johns' Justice Society run,
Yes, he
and
did.
there's just a quality that he brings. It's a light, familiar. That's the best word I can think of. It's like this familiar. It's like you're
Familiar.
seeing something that you recognize. This and in case of family or friends or something, it's just this lighthearted, just kind of feel good feeling that you get from seeing his art. I just love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I look at his art and especially in this, I know he leaned into it a little bit more, but he's like, using the Kirby crackle and like
Yep,
some of the faces,
definitely.
are kind of obscured in the way that Jack Kirby would kind of like do impressionistic style, faces as opposed to like more like photorealistic like lifelike faces,
Yeah,
some of people make fun of him for some of that stuff, but I'm like but no, like he was getting at something. It's not that he couldn't draw things better. He like that he drew them like that for a reason. There was a stylized thing, but you see Dale like pulling some of that in cuz yeah, he has this familiar style. It's like that's a retro style, but it doesn't feel dated somehow. Like it still feels
yeah,
current and everything. So
yeah.
he did a great job, and the colors did an incredible job on this as well. I forget who.
Oh yeah, the color. I mean, it's very bright. It's
Hmm.
very vibrant, which I think is important with the Fantastic Four because they're all about exploration and discovery. One of the
Right.
members can light himself on fire, so it's not like they're broody like Batman or Daredevil. You want them
Right.
to feel bright and also kind of clean looking, like kind of like NASA, kind of ish.
Yes. Hmm.
So yeah, the art direction on this, and then even just the entire run, just going forward. As much as I remember, the art is just fantastic. It's
It
really great
really
to look
is.
at.
It really is. Yeah, Paul Mounts was the colorist on this. So no, it was really good. But yeah, so there goes a little bit of a small sample of the
A little
enthusiasm that we have.
appetizer.
Little appetizer, a little something to wet your whistle. Of how exciting this run can be. And this is just the first trade. Like things get deeper, things get crazier, things go into the ocean because certain people aren't too far away. Things get I mean it just goes all over the place, but still that through line of like family relationships and balancing duty, of the working life and ambitions versus your love life and the people that you take care of and take care of you. So Hickman has just done a great job. We're going to continue to go through this, so continue to come back over here and check out more as we post this video and do live streams for it throughout the week. Um, Zach, again, thanks so much for joining me. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, dude. Thank you so much again for inviting me on. You know, it's awesome just getting to talk about just these book. I love talking about comics that I love reading and that I enjoy reading. There's of course there's as long as there's comics, there's always going to be the ones that people don't like and that we rag on, or creators that we don't like. It's just we kind of just breathes fresh life into the conversation to talk about books that we actually enjoy.
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm just glad to be a part of that. So thank you again for inviting me over.
Absolutely. Magical twin powers. Can't wait to do it again.
Yes.
But until next time, we will see you all on the next one. Later.
Bye guys. Take it easy.